What's going on, everybody? I hope you're enjoying your Thursday afternoon so far. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm bringing you more NFL draft prospects that I've been looking at and I've been scouting over the past couple of weeks on some players that I have potential interest that the Giants, I hope the Giants would look at and potentially draft when we get to the NFL draft, April 27th to the 29th. So, I've already talked about some of the players that the New York Giants could potentially have interest in maybe drafting in the offseason over the past couple of days. A lot of them right now I'm focusing on the wide receiver position as well as the offensive line. That's where my main focus is going to be right now. So I've looked over at the wide receiver position at guys like Jordan Addison. I looked at guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I've looked at guys like Rashee Rice. Now, in my wide receiver position, I'm going to get to one of my favorites coming out of the draft. And I've been watching this kid. He's from the University of North Carolina. I think he's one of those underrated prospects that not a lot of people are talking about. And the one thing I really like about this kid is a couple of things. And that, of course, is the 5'10", 171-pound wide receiver junior coming out of North Carolina, Joshua Downs. To me, this kid right now, the one thing that gets me excited about Joshua Downs, honestly, just from watching his tape, this kid is not afraid to put his body out there, and he's aggressive when going up and getting the ball. He is not afraid to high point the ball, go into traffic, not be afraid of the hits that are coming his way, and just go up and grab that football. And I love that about a wide receiver. Fearless over the middle of the field. Obviously, I don't want to see the kid get hurt. That's obvious. But at the same time, I love the fact that this kid is fearless over the middle of the football field, and he is not afraid to take some contact on the field to be able to go up there and make the contested catches when they're in front of him. Plus, I believe that this kid is a very underrated route runner on the football field as well. I do think overall he's a very, very underrated route runner overall, and I think he could be a player that the New York Giants could potentially look at in terms of they're looking for just clean, crisp route running wide receivers over the middle of the football field, as well as guys that he is strong in contested catch situations. A lot of the times with the New York Giants guys, they're afraid to go over the middle and make those catches, or they drop a lot of passes. This guy is a 72% contested catch radius at 5'10" and only 171 pounds. Now, the frame is small. He's a very small wide receiver. You worry about him taking those big hits over the middle of the field. He is only 5'10", 171 pounds. He's like a Wan'Dale Robinson type of frame. You wonder how long he's really going to last in the NFL. But, like I said, he's fearless over the middle of the football field. And Brian Daboll is not afraid to get what these guys are looking for. He's not afraid to go get these guys that are very big in terms of contested catch radius. He's also a guy that he's very underrated in terms of his explosiveness. Here's some of the things why you would buy into a guy like Joshua Downs going into this NFL draft. He's a dynamic and explosive athlete in and out of his breaks. This guy, for a 5'10", 171-pound wide receiver, he is as dynamic can be. When he gets the ball in his hands, he could explode in and out of his routes. He is incredibly agile. He's incredibly elusive. He knows how to get away from the defenders when he's in the open field. That's the one thing I like about this kid. Is when the ball is in his hands, he can go. He just goes. And I cannot underestimate how good this kid could be when he gets into the NFL. He's got a Randall Cobb type feel for me. I don't know why. I got a early Randall Cobb type feel when I think about Joshua Downs. Cobb was another guy that was not afraid of contested catches, explosive athlete when he had the ball in his hands. He was dynamic all over the field. And this kid, you could line him up all over the football field, in the backfield, in the slot. Not really an outside guy, and I'm going to get to that in a second, a little bit later. He's also a highly productive career when he was playing in college for North Carolina. Multiple 1,000-yard seasons, multiple 80, 90, 100-yard catch seasons. Kid is dynamic with the ball in his hands. Probably say I haven't seen a wide receiver as dynamic in North Carolina since De'Ami Brown, since Dazz Newsome, probably all the way back since Hakeem Nicks. This kid is dynamic with the football in his hands. That's the one thing I love about him. I can't stop underestimating what this kid can do on the football field when he's got the ball in his hands. And the fact he's so small and he's still not afraid to go up there and get the ball when it's up in the air, create that contact. And he's also dynamic when it comes to running after the catch. This kid, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to rack up that yak. He's going to rack that yak. That should be a new saying right there. Rack the yak. He is going to pick up all those yardage after he has the ball in his hands. That's what you need from a wide receiver like a Joshua Downs. But there are some drawbacks when it comes to Joshua Downs. There are some things that you have to worry about when this kid goes into the NFL. One of them I'm going to go to immediately is his limited alignment. He's right now projected as only a slot wide receiver going into the NFL. That's a problem. That is one thing I definitely understand. When watching tape on this kid, it seems like all his routes are coming out of the slot. He's not an outside wide receiver because of his measurables, and that's another thing right there. His height-weight combination, non-traditional. He's only 5'10", which is average for about a slot wide receiver. When you have most slot wide receivers, they're around that 5'10", 5'9", 6 foot range overall. You don't really see a lot of big wide receivers in the slot. You can play them occasionally in the slot wide receiver position, but you see a lot of them coming out of the slot position, or so coming on the outside. Bigger wide receivers are like 6'3", 6'4 overall. But this guy, I worry about him just being a fit only in the slot. And we already have slot wide receivers. The Giants have been known to bring in slot wide receivers over the years. Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale Robinson. They signed Golden Tate. A lot of the Giants receivers that they brought in over the years, besides Kenny Golladay, have mostly been known as slot wide receivers. Do we really want to take a chance on another slot wide receiver? That's the one thing that I would probably say I would steer away from a guy like Joshua Downs, but you can't underestimate this kid's explosiveness. And another thing, he drops way too many passes. Much like Addison and much like Rashee Rice, the kid does have a drop problem at times. That's the one thing I worry about him. But if you could find a way to add a dynamic receiver like Joshua Downs, doesn't help. Wan'Dale Robinson right now is unsure of when he's actually going to come back because he's dealing with a torn ACL and he dealt with going into the middle of last season. There's no reason to think he's going to be back by the time we begin next season. He's probably going to miss some time being placed on the PUP list or beginning on injured reserve. What are the Giants going to do when it comes to this kid? That's the thing. Now, I'm going to go to for my other player I'm going to talk about. And that is Steve Avila, coming out of TCU, interior offensive lineman. He is right now being rated as the number 2 offensive line prospect coming out of the NFL draft in terms of the interior offensive lineman. The only one that is being rated higher than him is O'Cyrus Torrence, for obvious reasons. How good and dominant that guy is at the offensive guard position. This is another guy that I'm very, very interested in looking at. As a run blocker, he's very, very aggressive, with a temperament and easily seeks defensive linemen to engage with. He's not afraid to create the contact on the offensive line. And he's a big, 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 big offensive lineman. 6'4", 334-pound offensive lineman in the middle. From TCU. This guy is not afraid to use his girth and use his aggressiveness out there. And he does his best on the pass protection part of the game, dealing with those power rushers. He knows how to handle power rushers. When he's facing a power rusher, he does a good job of anchoring and stopping defenders from penetrating into the middle of the backfield and getting pressure on his quarterback. He's not afraid of dealing with the middle of the field with those power rushers using his girth overall. Avila also combines strength and mass, which allows him to win on most of his physical matchups that require the strength he needs. He's a big dude. When it comes to strength, you're not going to have to worry about this guy. He's going to have that under very good control. Top reasons to buy on to this kid. He's got natural play strength for an interior offensive lineman. Bingo! That's what you need. Natural strength up the middle. That's what I like to hear. He's also got the playing experience, playing 4 years at TCU, being a senior. That helps out. He's ready-made coming into the NFL. Ready-made, strong, offensive lineman, 4 years experience. That doesn't make you happy. I don't know what does. And he's also got that big frame and overall mass. Those are some of the things. When it comes to power rushers, when it comes to power rushing defensive linemen, you don't have to worry about Avila when it comes to his overall skill set and dealing with those power rushers. He knows what to do to slow them down or stop them. That's something that the Giants or whoever drafts this kid don't have to worry about, is when he's out there, his power rushing ability is not going to have to be an issue. He's going to be able to stand up and deal with these guys going forward. But, there are drawbacks, as always. And the one thing that I look at when it comes to this kid is his quickness. His lateral agility and his lateral quickness is very, very... it's not as great. So, I mean, he's good with power rushers, but then again, what about the speed rushers? What about guys that can, speed rush past him, get a quick first step on him, and he's not quick enough to react on the outside, have the proper footwork to react on those first steps, and the pass rusher goes right around him and gets to the quarterback. That's one thing I worry about him on the interior offensive line. He's also his IQ and blitz pickup, thank you, is not as strong compared to some of these other offensive linemen that are coming out, like a John Michael Schmidt, like an O'Cyrus Torrence. He reacts a little bit closely and doesn't pick up what a defensive lineman that he's playing against does on a natural basis. So he doesn't pick it up what they're doing. For when they do one thing on the same play, he's going to get fooled on that same play again because he doesn't understand or follow it as quickly. He also doesn't have the strong range when it comes to being a run blocker. That's another thing. He struggled when it comes to his run blocking range overall. That's something he's got to work at when he gets into the NFL. Especially, he needs to work better in terms of being an overall offensive lineman in the interior when it comes to dealing with speed rushers. Because if you can't do that, you're going to get beaten all the time you see sometimes that defensive coordinators are going to put speed rushers in the middle of their defense on pass rush situations in the middle of the field. They're going to keep putting those pass rushers in the middle of the football field. And if you have an offensive lineman that is slow to react, is not quick to pick up what a defensive lineman is doing on a consistent basis over the middle, you are going to get beat on a constant basis. And that is going to be a detriment for these guys going forward. That is one thing that Avila has got to work on getting into the NFL. He needs to work on his reactionary techniques when it comes to speed rushers in the NFL. Power should not be that big of an issue for this kid because he's a big offensive lineman. But the speed rushers and his footwork has got to be worked on. That's where he's going to have to really work himself out a lot this offseason to give teams looking for this, maybe potentially drafting this kid in the early second round, maybe late first, early second. I think he's projected right now as a second round pick. That's what he's going to have to work on, is his ability to deal with speed rushers. But you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about these two players talked about today. Wide receiver Joshua Downs, 6 foot, 171 pound wide receiver, junior, coming out of the University of North Carolina, as well as offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman Steve Avila, 6'4", 334 pound offensive lineman coming out of the University of TCU, or TCU University. You guys let me know in the comment section what you think about these two players. Hit that like button. Give a sub to NYG Jeffy T85. More news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. And turn on that bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Take it easy. And as always, let's go New York Football Giants. Together blue, everyone.